the glittering world of country music, guitars twang, stadiums fill, and voices echo across state lines with heartfelt ballads of love and loss. But behind the polished images and high-stakes performances, a darker truth lingers just off stage. Many of the most celebrated country music singers carried secret battles with alcohol, burdens that gnawed at their careers, families, and very lives. The question wasn't just how to keep the hits coming, it was how to keep life in balance when temptation lurked around every backstage corner. Hank Williams Sr. remains one of the most transformative figures in country music's long legacy. Fans romanticize his haunting lyrics and raw emotion, but behind the scenes, the man endured a harsh existence shaped by heartbreak and heavy drinking. By the time he reached his 20s, his body had already started to buckle under the strain of relentless touring and self-medication. He died at just 29, a tragic end that highlighted the brutal cost of trying to outshine one's pain with whiskey. Yet his memory endures in countless tributes. George Jones, famously nicknamed No-Show Jones, cemented his legacy with a voice capable of commanding any stage. Yet for a while, his name was nearly synonymous with canceled concerts and erratic appearances, fueled by an ongoing battle with the bottle. Friends witnessed him sinking into periods of isolation that cost him relationships and respect. Despite the havoc, Jones managed to rebound later in life, gifting fans with a powerful reminder of how redemption can rise from chaos. Merle Haggard, whose time in prison gave him the grit that shaped his songwriting, spent years tangling with his own appetites. Known for hits like Okie from Muskogee, he cultivated a raw, authentic image, but that authenticity extended to more than just music. The hush around his struggles only added to his outlaw mystique, though close friends knew the real toll it took on his mind and body. Waylon Jennings was another epitome of the outlaw movement, forging a rebellious path that challenged the clean-cut image many thought country artists should maintain. A champion of freedom and creative control, he struggled beneath the weight of constant partying, a perpetual presence at his side. Though he later found a semblance of peace, he was never free from that early life of reckless abandon. His authenticity carried forward in each note, blending the spirit of rebellion with a harsh honesty about personal demons. Johnny Cash, the Man in Black himself, faced a notorious battle with pills, but alcohol stood alongside those pills as a destructive ally. The public frequently spotlighted his amphetamine use, yet overcoming those addictions cost him dearly, and he found salvation in faith and the unwavering support of June Carter Cash. The redemption he ultimately found remains one of the most compelling arcs in country music. But the lineage of struggle didn't stop there. Future generations carried the same heavy burden. Hank Williams Jr. inherited not only his father's legendary talent, but also a predisposition towards self-destructive drinking patterns. Early in his career, critics compared him to the elder Williams, piling on the pressure. As he wrestled with identity and the desire to carve his own path, bottles often seemed like his closest companions. Over time, though, he confronted the looming shadows, choosing to seek a better way of living that would preserve both his life and his artistry. His journey from precarious beginnings to eventual sobriety demonstrated that it's possible to step out from even the heaviest legacy. Keith Whitley, despite his angelic vocals, lost his life at 33 to alcohol poisoning. His short career ascended rapidly. He delivered riveting performances that made an impact on countless aspiring musicians, yet the darkness beneath that golden voice remained. When news of his passing swept through Nashville, the stunned reaction underscored how deeply he was loved, and how fragile fame could be when pitted against addiction. Travis Tritt emerged onto the scene with a dynamic presence, mixing a southern rock edge into traditional country. In his heyday, fans saw him as carefree, occasionally cocky, and brimming with rebellious charm. What they didn't always see was how party culture threatened to undermine his ambitions. He admitted that heavy drinking started taking control. Eventually, he realized the need to rein in that element before it derailed everything he'd built. Garth Brooks might not immediately come to mind when listing severe addicts, yet he too has recounted late-night sessions where the line between casual drinking and a serious problem began to blur. Recording pressures and personal stress sometimes left him leaning too heavily on liquid solace. By openly acknowledging those worrisome habits, Brooks underscored a subtle but powerful message. No one is immune, and honesty can be a key weapon against hidden struggles. Tanya Tucker burst onto the country music scene like a wildfire, her powerful vocals and undeniable stage presence startling fans and radio programmers alike. She was just 13 when her first single caught the world's attention, instantly branding her as a prodigy. Yet that rapid climb laid groundwork for pressures few adults could withstand, let alone a teenager. As she matured, tabloids started buzzing about her turbulent relationships and alcohol-fueled nights. The glitz and glamour belied an inner turmoil that kept her teetering on an emotional edge. Critics and fans sometimes whispered rumors that she'd lost her edge, but Tucker persevered. She remained an icon, especially for women who watched her navigate an industry often dominated by male voices. Despite the clouds that occasionally darkened her horizon, she managed to re-emerge again and again, using her story as a testament to resilience. Her journey illustrated that while talent can open doors, staying grounded enough to walk through them without stumbling can be a monumental challenge. But Tanya Tucker's tale was hardly the only one. Some outlaws lurked on the fringes, forging reputations as unpredictable rebels unafraid of public brawls or wild nights gone too far. Billy Currington, with his smooth voice and laid-back persona, found himself in the spotlight for reasons other than chart-topping hits when accusations surfaced, linking him to disorderly conduct and rowdy behavior. While no one knows every detail behind the public incidents, the rumors always hinted that alcohol played a role. Some fans were shocked, others saw it as a glimpse into the stress of sudden fame. Though Currington continued to produce popular music, a shadow lingered in the minds of those who wondered if he had things fully under control. David Allan Coe, often considered the quintessential outlaw, wore his rebel status like a badge of honor. He boasted about living life on the wild side, and alcohol was a near-constant presence. The stories of his bar fights and unpredictable antics became almost legendary, yet the same rebellious streak that made his music distinctive also made him prone to destructive choices. Gary Allan grappled with alcohol following the devastating passing of his wife. Grief turned into a suffocating presence that he attempted to numb with a bottle. Fans noticed a shift in his performances, a raw emotional edge that both drew them closer and made them worry. The path he walked was heartbreaking to witness, but it also illustrated how deeply personal struggles can intersect with professional obligations. Willie Nelson, beloved for his unmistakable voice and passion for marijuana, is not typically labeled an alcoholic. But stories from his earlier years paint a different picture, one where he was known to drink almost as freely as he smoked. Close friends recall rowdy jam sessions where the whiskey flowed like water. Shifting his focus more toward what he's most famous for, cannabis, steered him away from a worse fate. Even so, those early chapters highlight that every legend, no matter how laid back or iconic, can find themselves dancing dangerously close to a downward spiral. Yet even as the outlaws carried their burdens, the story of addiction also wove itself through familial bonds, creating heartbreaking echoes from one generation to the next. Justin Townes Earle, the son of Steve Earle, seemed destined for musical greatness. He carried a raw authenticity in his songwriting that resonated with anyone who'd ever felt lost. Behind that honest artistry, though, raged a monumental battle. He struggled with substance issues that included alcohol, fighting to maintain control even as his star ascended. The heartbreak of his story reached its crushing climax when he OD'd at the age of 38. In that moment, the world lost a voice that might have gone on to redefine modern Americana. His death sent shockwaves through fans who knew him as a kind soul, brimming with creativity, but also as someone haunted by demons passed down through blood and circumstance. Steve Earle, a legend in his own right, endured a similarly tumultuous path. His struggles weren't limited to alcohol, but included heroin. Still, The bottle was often part of the mosaic that composed his darkest days. The difference, some note, is that Steve managed to claw his way out, eventually becoming an outspoken advocate for recovery. He spoke candidly about the realities of addiction, cautioning others that no measure of fame could guard against the self-destructive pull of these substances. The dynamic between father and son formed a distressing portrait, two talents brimming with potential, each facing down the same predator. Yet while Steve lived to tell his story and help others, Justin's chapter ended far too soon. In these intertwined narratives, we see both heartbreak and hope. One life lost, another reclaimed. Both serve as reminders that even the mightiest in country music can be undone by hidden battles. The father's survival, however, underscores that there's always a chance to turn things around. For others, that chance arrived with a great deal of pain and public scrutiny, yet it offered a type of redemption that fans celebrated. As we move forward, more tales of redemption, some partial, some ongoing, come to light, revealing how resilience can sometimes sprout from the darkest corners of despair. Glen Campbell, revered for songs that transcended the boundaries of traditional country, stepped into a harsh spotlight when his troubles with alcohol became public. Beyond his cameo roles on television and the unstoppable hits like Rhinestone Cowboy, he spent years wrestling a beast few outside his inner circle fully understood. The honesty he displayed about his struggles won him admiration. Even when the disease made it harder to recognize faces or remember lyrics, Campbell's bravery in speaking out about the damage inflicted by alcohol remained powerful. Trace Adkins, with his deep baritone and imposing stature, faced multiple stints in rehab. Each time, fans worried they were witnessing the end of his career, but he emerged with new insights, becoming vocal about the dangers of letting addiction go unchecked. The country scene regarded him with respect for acknowledging his vulnerability in a genre where macho attitudes sometimes prevail. By confronting his issues openly, he demonstrated to aspiring artists that there's no shame in seeking help. Jason Isbell transitioned from a group environment with drive-by truckers into a triumphant solo career, but not before alcohol nearly ruined his prospects. Early fans watched him spiral as his drinking habits jeopardized friendships and performances. When he finally stepped away, got sober, and wrote music that channeled his experiences, critics and audiences alike embraced him. His journey proved that second chances do exist, especially for those willing to tear down personal walls and face their darkest impulses. Randy Travis, whose voice once epitomized classic country storytelling, found his personal life splashed across headlines when he was arrested, naked, and clearly under the influence. It was a sharp fall from grace for an artist whose songs had comforted countless listeners. Over time, he worked to rebuild, grappling with health complications and public scrutiny. Even though his vocal capabilities would eventually diminish due to a stroke, his determination to mend his life remained a beacon for fans who'd followed him from his earliest hits. John Denver, often viewed as more of a folk pop musician, found himself in trouble multiple times with DUIs. The public that adored hits like Rocky Mountain High rarely associated him with alcohol struggles, yet the record showed a pattern of risky behavior behind the wheel. That paradox, wholesome on stage, reckless in private, revealed how universal the struggle could be. Even a star famed for songs about nature and peace wasn't immune to the creeping grasp of addiction. By the time the final bows were taken, each of these icons had faced moments that threatened to overshadow their artistry, reminding everyone that heartbreak often dwells beneath the glimmer of stardom. In looking at these stories, it becomes clear that no level of fame, fortune, or undeniable talent can inoculate a person against the grip of addiction. Country music is built on authenticity, telling real-life stories through heartfelt lyrics. Yet the genuine honesty found in so many songs sometimes mirrored a deeper reality. Artists were singing about the very demons they faced when the stage lights dimmed. Each star confronted a crossroad where the next drink could be the difference between a triumphant performance and a downward spiral. From Hank Williams Sr., who never got to see 30, to Keith Whitley, whose final moments served as a stark reminder of how quickly everything can slip away. The tragedies pile up like caution signs. The image of Tanya Tucker wrestling her public persona while trying to outrun the chaos behind the scenes tells us fame can accelerate personal crises rather than solve them. Justin Townes Earle's tragic end, contrasted with Steve Earle's recovery, exemplifies how close redemption and disaster can be, even within the same family. Glenn Campbell's graceful candor and Willie Nelson's shift toward less destructive habits show that it's never too late to alter course, although the damage might still linger. Their battles serve as a testament to the fact that while the voices of country music ring out in stadiums and radio stations, those same voices can echo with sorrow behind closed doors. For every triumphant comeback, there's a tale of heartbreak that never quite resolved. The next time you hear a ballad about heartbreak, loss, or second chances, it might just be rooted in a real struggle with addiction. The glitz and glamour often distract from the very real possibility that the biggest show in these artists' lives happens off stage, where personal perseverance must outlast adversity. Yet there is a note of hope woven through even the darkest confessions. Trace Adkins, Jason Isbell, and others have shown that acknowledging a problem can spark a renaissance in creativity and well-being. Hank Williams Jr. proved that emerging from the shadow of a legendary father's downfall is possible. Randy Travis, though silenced by health challenges, continues to inspire those who recall his voice. Willie Nelson still stands as living proof that you can shift your focus away from the bottle and still remain an icon. The bottom line is that recovery and redemption, while never guaranteed, can be found in some of the most unexpected corners of a complicated life. No matter how sensational the headlines or how tragic the final moments, these figures remind us of the universal truth. Addiction doesn't discriminate. Wealth, fame, and critical acclaim are meaningless if you're isolated in a hotel room at 3 in the morning, staring at yourself in the mirror and wondering how you got here. Ultimately, the stories stand as a collective caution to anyone who believes success alone can ward off the lure of self-destruction. It can't. But the resilience of the human spirit remains boundless, waiting for those brave enough to confront their broken pieces. For every one of these legendary artists, it was never just about writing songs or performing for massive crowds. It was about survival, about seeking a glimmer of light in the darkness, about harnessing pain and turning it into music that resonates with millions. The lesson remains that if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the best move is to speak up, reach out, and remember that even icons fall. The same hands that strum guitars can also pick up the phone and ask for help. In the end, standing on a stage isn't what makes a legend. It's surviving life's storms and returning to share the story that truly cements one's place in country music lore. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.